Hi everyone, we have a new product to share. So we have set up a little mini tutorial and we're going to give some tips and ideas for using the HeatnBond Ultra Hold. We carry it in a strip form, which is great for feathers. I will demonstrate that. And we also have it in a sheet form, which I'm still exploring the ways to use it, but we can make larger amounts of bonded fiber in a short amount of time. It could be leaves. I'm going to demonstrate some wings and some bee wings. So we have a few different things to show today. This is an adhesive, basically. We're adapting it from, it's for use on fabric, like if you want to hem something and you don't sew, or you want to hold it instead of sewing, you iron this on, so it's heat activated. I have a lot of different fibers here ready to go, which I will talk about as we go. So you can watch through to see what I'm using and what you might need if you want to try this. I have just a wool mat that I'm using for ironing and my iron. And then we have some tools. Now I also made a little mix of, this is the PowerTex and it's diluted with water. And that is for the edges of feathers specifically, but you can put a thin layer on anything and it holds all the fiber down. So we'll talk about what's happening and why as we go. The first thing I'm going to show is the feather technique. And we're going to kind of switch so that you guys can look down on the surface as I'm working. But we're making wired feathers, which are, I have some in this rooster. And we also have the plumage technique, which involves twisting the fiber between two wires. We have a separate video for that. Kind of achieves the same results. There's caveats to each. One being the HeatnBond being faster, the twist being a little more thorough in the sense of where the fiber goes and what kind of control you have. But once I put them onto my rooster, I really had a hard time telling which one was which. So very similar results, but you might like one thing about one technique and another thing about the other technique. Always good to have more tools in your tool belt in terms of manipulating fiber and sculpting and needle felting techniques. So this is just one more of those. Anything else I need to say before we start demoing?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Thank you to Melanie for bringing us this technique.
Absolutely. We have a certified instructor program or group, and we all gathered for the first time this year, and she brought this with her, and we've just really enjoyed learning more about it and figuring out new ways to use it and how we want to use it. Also, should point out that depending on when you see this video, we are going to have a Dragonfly felt along. So that is something that you will be able to find in our felt along playlist on our channel. And you can see how we're using this in a project. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, let's get started. Okay, this is the product that I'm going to use now to make feathers about this size. Now you can get smaller. This is kind of like where knowing both techniques helps you, because it would be difficult to make a very small detailed feather with this, whereas the twisted plumage technique you can get very small with the 32 gauge silver wire. But that's its own video, so make sure to find that and check it out. This is the product. It is, what size is it? 3/4? 5/8 inch. And I want a few strips of it. I can cut it. I can rip it. I've got 3 different colors to show. And then I have some 26 gauge wire. So these are made with the plumage technique. The twist kind of gets actually a little bit more hidden. And then this one does have the power text on it. And these are made with the HeatnBond, and they do have power text on them as well. And it just firms up the edges so you can get some nice details. And we can also add, this is on our Goods and Faves page. It's a shine hair mist. So that can be added to get a little bit more luster, especially on these darker ones. So a few possibilities there for finishing out your feathers. But let me show you how to get started making them. So I'm going to turn this on. I've got an iron over here, and I'm putting it all the way up to the, well, that's a fun sound, to the cotton setting. And I'm going to let that heat up. And while that heats up, oh, I got this out. These are twisted ones, but this we did in the, what? That was a second plumage video that we did. And I believe they might be under the live stream.
Yeah, that was introducing the plumage fiber.
Yes. Lots of tutorials out there. So I have a few different fibers that work great for this. One is the fur line. So this is Arctic fur. I've already cut it in half. The other is the plumage line. I'm going to use the the great blue heron. And then this is actually a mix. So this is the panther fur. This is the mix. Panther fur. I believe this is Ireland mulberry silk. This is one of the plumage colors. Oh, crowned pigeon. Thank you. Victoria crowned pigeon. And this is cobalt silk, tussa silk. Yeah, and that's the mulberry silk. So some vibrant, rich colors in with the black gives it a really nice shine. So now while I'm starting to lay these out, Kyla is going to take this, pull off sections, and maybe like 6 of those and cut them in half.
Okay.
We can start with half the length of fiber. That way we're getting the most out of our fiber. So Kyla's just going to be cutting those in half. This one, I think, I'll just show you the full length, and then you'll see, you can see how much gets cut away. This is just long enough that it could probably be cut in half as well. And then the white is already cut in half, and it's not going to show up super well on here. Now we want to lay our initial fiber out as evenly and thinly as possible. If you go too thick, it doesn't all stick, which is fine. Some of it can fall off. A lot of it will, in fact, and that's okay. It's better. I almost went a little Italian there, to go a little thicker than thin, because when it's thin, you're in danger of the bonding agent like going through and sticking to whatever this surface is. If you're using a towel or whatever your ironing surface is. All right. Yeah, this is great. So I'm just taking this and just trying to make it as thin as possible. Thin and even. Now, we can take our hand or a ruler, and if we have the like the clover tool. The claw. But if you don't, you can just hold it down, but angle the fibers with a little comb I have a comb here too I can use if I need to. That way, that gives us a more realistic feather than just sticking straight across. Thank you. Ooh, some right-handed action. You've really got to, okay, with this one, you've really got to hold this down firmly because it wants to kind of pull that through. Taking the extra minute to do this step is great. It like makes a big difference in the realism of your feather. Now, I'm just going to tell you a few things that I like about the technique. It's a lot faster. It's a lot faster and a lot less tedious than the twisting technique. I like the way the black floral wire, and maybe the white, I actually haven't done that many with white, shows through just a little bit, giving you that spine of the feather that's kind of realistic looking. And things that I find difficult, every once in a while, if you don't do this just right, the wire doesn't hold, it wants to slip out. So paying attention to these steps is important. And I don't know, there's just something satisfying to me about relying on just the fiber and the wire that is very thorough and integrated. Now, this will last a long time. Mm-hmm. It's like in clothing and stuff, it's washable and everything. Okay, so we're going to put our HeatnBond. It has a paper side and the side that the product is on. So we're going to put that face down. Let me get a longer one for these. So you can see how long you can go. There's a certain amount that a 26 gauge wire is going to hold. And then with the iron, it's a simple 2 seconds. So don't move it. Just 1, 2. Sorry.
That's all right.
Incoming. And I find if you can be a little bit patient, it helps to let it cool a tiny bit. Oh, that's kind of cool looking. It just makes it easier to handle and to peel the backing off. So the next step is to peel the paper off. You've got to find a little corner and you can feel when it's working. Sometimes it's a little bit tricky. And you can see that some of this is going to come off, and that's okay. We will actually want our feathers very thin. And that fiber, we did this a lot when we were making the roosters. It is not difficult to restack it and use it. We saved all of it. So you can do this one if you want to. It's good to save some of these papers that we peel off, because on the next step, we want to use them over the back over, so that this, in case this wants to come through any of the fiber, then, we've got this paper protecting the iron. We did have a few circumstances where the iron got a little sticky, and it didn't take much. Just let it cool. Yeah, and we were able to just rub it off. Thank you. Oh, did it stick a little bit? So that's what happens if you've got the product, where there is no fiber, it'll stick. Okay, so we have our fiber, and then we had the HeatnBond, then we did 2 seconds. pulled the paper off. Now we have it exactly the same way, face up. And this is where it gets a little tricky. We're going to take our wires and we want to make sure that they stay centered in that area. And it can be tough because the wire has a little life of its own and wants to bounce around a little bit. I'm going to use,
a whole one?
yeah, will you grab me a whole one? Thank you. Okay. Now we go over this. The thinner you can make this, the better. Now, I wasn't messing too much with angling this fiber because the more you play with it, the more you risk, unsettling the position of this wire, and that then it won't be sealed inside. We were using thicker pieces of HeatnBond, which you can if you cut it from the sheet, but I liked the edges having their natural flow and manipulation versus the HeatnBond being across the whole feather. So you can definitely experiment with what you like because there's a lot of possibilities. Thank you. So I'm getting that quite thin.
Any way you look at it, feathers are a little fussy.
Mm-hmm. They are. I mean, look what we're trying to mimic, and so I'm putting this back on just to protect the iron, especially on this first go. Now, this time I want to be about 12 seconds.
Do you put a lot of pressure on the iron?
I am putting pressure on it. I don't know if that's necessary, but that's what I'm doing. So again, some will come off, that's okay. But now that we know nothing's sticking, I mean, I can put this on again just to be sure. And it seems to me, as I'm playing with this, that the more you iron it, like every time you iron it, you're kind of reactivating it because it melts again. So just be careful. But I do like to hit both sides, and make sure I've got it all like as pressed in and stuck as possible. But I have felt like when I've ironed it, I can feel it soften up again in there. So now these are bonded, and this is our side that we really brushed it, and I can do it more, especially like I kind of want to reinforce the hold in the center. But this will also take off any extra fiber. So a little messy looking right now. And no matter which technique you use, there is a lot of grooming that goes on with these. And that's where we have our hair cutting scissors, and they're linked in the goods and faves page. But now I can begin to imagine my feather. Sometimes I like to leave like a little loose floof at the bottom because that's just how they are. I've got a nice little natural break right there, which I'll accentuate. And then I will add my power tacks. And that's really going to make these edges look very natural and kind of stuck together. And I think as I groom these, I'm going to let you do that.
Okay.
So Kyla has this. This is just a disposable oil painting palette. It's wax paper basically, but wax paper works great. So leave these floofy and then do all the edges above
How
that.
How far in?
Like that 1/2 inch, I guess.
Okay.
You could. It's totally up to your design. You can do the whole thing if you want to. I'm going to pass you another one in a second. Ooh, this is really, really pretty. Turned out great. Now, I did not run into the problem of the wire slipping out, but that has happened. I'm giving this one a little turn.
So
I like to, sometimes I hang them up, or I'll grab it from you. 1 second. I'm going to pass you this one. Ooh, look at that one. And maybe even by the time we're finished, we can take a look at these. Oh my God, I almost just... I'm going to throw my hand in there real quick. These we did not cut in half, and I cut a lot of fiber off. So I think it's best, unless you're making something gigantic, to cut your fiber in half. But yeah, it's good to get as much fiber off as I can here.
it's fussy, but like a satisfying fuss.
But if you had everything organized,
oh yeah,
you could make a dozen
bunch.
feathers in an hour. Yeah. This one's going to be pretty too. This one's really nice and thin. I could use the thinning shears on these as well. Yes, the feathers can be groomed and fussed with a lot. We're moving along a little bit because we're going to show so many different techniques or examples.
Definitely want to have some kind of surface that you're ironing on that
Yes.
you're not sad if it gets a little HeatnBond stuck to it.
Yes, that's for sure. So another thing I've been having fun with, I'm going to hopefully like not stick my head in here too much, is these dragonflies. And like I said, we're going to have a little tutorial. They can either be made with the sheet and you can make many at once, or they could be made individually, kind of like the feathers. And this one has a little wire added into it, and these do not. So it's a little trickier with the wire because it's a smaller area, and these are meant to be a little more gossamer, but I'll show you what I did. So let's do I'm going to use the sheet. And I need another piece of the sheet. If you need the those white and blue handled scissors. And from this, oh yeah, or these, size? Yeah. Yep, about like that. I'm going to cut 4. Oh, that was the iron being angry again. Well, I'll just do 2. There's no reason for me to go crazy with it. So these are going to be a set of wings, and I'll show you how I'm doing that. And I think it's fun and works well. The sari silk waist and the plumage are a great mix for these dragonfly wings. You could use merino also. I think the fur is a little too long and unruly. I made some cool ones with some kind of like a wispy mohair, but you can experiment. But I've sort of landed on the
plumage has nice
on
shine.
The plumage, and the sari silk waist is what gives it kind of like lines, because it's a soft, but it is a thicker fiber. So I'm just going to stretch out my fiber layer, and I'm not trying to go one way or the other. I could even like chop up my fiber and make it really super random. But you just want it even. Now, if you chop up your fiber a lot, more of the ends are, I'll show the difference. More of the ends are going to stick to the HeatnBond, and you're going to have a fuzzier look. So my iron's going to click any second, but I'm going to put these down. We are also creating a little template for the dragonfly wings. So keep your eyes peeled for that in the felt along tutorial.
We're hoping to have it on the HeatnBond.
Oh, on the listing on the website. All right, let me see what's going on here. I didn't hear it click, but I'll be able to tell. Yep. So first time's just 2 seconds. Give it a second. Wasn't there a piece? Here we go. If you want to cut 2 like 2-inch sections, these are fine, or those. Got a little stickiness there. Worked like a charm. This one stuck a little more because it was wholly because of the cutting it all up. But you can see how this ends up a bit fuzzier. The middle road would be good. Like cut the merino or cut the plumage in half, and then you won't have quite so much fuzz. You won't have fuzz and you won't have such quite long, oops, I do want to hang on to that pieces. Okay, now I'm going to somewhat center these, but the upper wings, both sets of wings get cut close, very close to the wire, but in slightly different shapes. So this is a bit of extra material here. But I just put a little 2-inch piece of wire in there. And then I really like the way the sari silk waist works. So let's try that.
Probably need to cut it.
Yeah. And this, I definitely want that paper because this is going to be a little bit airy. So I definitely want that paper on top of it. Trying to get it not in any clumps. Really tease it out. And then this time we want to do 12 seconds or so. And we will go through these wings specifically in detail when we have our felt along. But this is just a way to show how we're using the sheet rather than the strip. So then I'm going to find the center, fold it in half. That wire wants to poke out just a little bit. Let me iron it a little bit from both sides here.
Sometimes you can even see the HeatnBond through it.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
It looks like that wing material, like whatever the wing webbing is.
It kind of looks like it.
It's really cool.
And some of them have very dark, very light feathers. So this is a little bit of a dark color palette, but. Now on the wings, it's okay for the HeatnBond to be, throughout the whole wing because we want a nice crisp edge. I am feeling where the wire is to make sure that I don't cut into it. But yeah, you just, whenever you cut these, ooh, that's pretty, isn't it? It's best to fold it in half to make sure that you're getting your design symmetrical. And there's all different shapes to these. It's pretty. Yeah, this one wanted to come out just a little bit there, but that'll be okay. So that is that. You could make leaves this way, and you can even make them like a warmer color on top and a cooler color on the bottom. Now, let's say that's what this was going to be. And we do have a flower tutorial. But I think that you could get very detailed. Like you could even design it, so that it had a center. Or we made some wings and we decided to go back and put wires on. And so we put another little piece of HeatnBond on top and then redid it. So you can even layer with it and keep adding. So, and these could benefit, especially when you have a lot of loose fiber, these could benefit from either, well, probably some PowerTex thinned out. I was going to say a little Power Wax, but that is heavier than the PowerTex.
It will harden it.
It does harden it. It is definitely a stiffener. I'll just go ahead and cut this since we're here. I'll try to make this one a little more kind of just long and skinny. Pretty. Okay. I made some bee wings. Now, this is a technique that we used the PowerTex for, and that is in the, is it in the bee tutorial?
I don't know.
I don't think it's in the bee tutorial. But what I did was I used some plastic or some wax paper. I spread out a lock and I just painted it with the thinned out PowerTex, which totally worked. And it made a very nice lacy design. But we're going to do it with the HeatnBond.
It's definitely more stiff. When you're using the PowerTex, the whole thing is gets pretty firm. So this allows it to be a little softer.
These are white sheep curls. A BFL would be even better. But I want to get this as thin as I can, a little stretched out, just one lock. I'm going to use this piece of paper because this is definitely webby. It's probably a little bit hard to see the white on white, but just looking for just the right one. I like the way the lock has the texture built in. Did it turn off on me? It didn't make that sound. Nope.
So this one's a lock on each side.
Mm-hmm. Ouchie. Yeah, this stuff gets hot, so do be careful. It's very thin. It was stuck to this paper, but since the paper is a little waxy, it doesn't matter. But it definitely would have stuck.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Silk. So about 12 seconds. I'm going to flip it over and do the other side.
Paper side up, shiny side in.
Yes.
When you iron.
Yeah, just keep in mind. So it's kind of like hot and activated still. It's like a little kind of jelly and sticky, but it cools rather quickly, and then you'll feel that it's more firm. And oh boy, I don't know what happened there. So then I'm just gonna find the center. I can leave. This would be helpful to stick into. I have to admit, I did not look at the shape of a bee wing right now. I was just kind of revisiting something. So, and I'm sure you could put a little Angelina in there if you wanted to, but it just makes a nice, I'm sorry, Firestar, yeah. Somewhat transparent. Can you see? I can see through it. Can you see through it? Yeah, I think that's, I was going to show a full sheet. I'll just show a full sheet. I haven't tried to put down wire in a full sheet. Could be the best of both worlds, kind of.
Make a bunch at once. But
it's not too hard to. If you're ready, like you could lay down a whole bunch.
What fibers are you using here?
This is plumage and sari silk waste. Lorikeet. Oh gosh.
It's teal.
It's the green. Blue one. I'm totally blanking. We went and named the plumage colors. I'm going to make this just a little bit smaller.
Yeah, that's big.
All kinds of fancy names, and now we're forever.
What's that called?
Forever confused. And then let's do just oh no, this is from the new Shetland line.
Oh.
Yep.
What's that called? Coral.
No, cobalt. No. Is it cobalt? We don't even have these in stock yet, so I'm gonna feel bad about the plumage, but I'm not gonna feel bad about. Cool. I'm having fun making dragonflies, I have to say. Look how sheer that is. So if we can keep it sheer on this side. Now, I would like to kind of disrupt this, I think, and not have it linear.
I'm going to put it on here when you iron it so it doesn't stick.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Save some of your paper.
I'm trying to keep it super, super thin. The nice thing about the HeatnBond also is that it's very inexpensive. So you can have a blast playing with this.
Oh, so many colors and so many possibilities. Did you even show this?
I didn't show. These were done as a full sheet. Yeah. Oh yeah, like that's. Why are those good? Yeah. That's the saffron. Mm-hmm. And it is the plumage on the other side. So pretty. Yes.
You get the veins, they look like.
Let's do one more press here. So cool. Yeah, so we basically just created a sheet. I do like the Sorry Silk Waste best, I think, in it. The Dragonfly wings could also be power text. You know, if you have stray fibers like this and you really want to lock them down, you can definitely do that. I was experimenting with a razor, like a shaving razor, but it didn't work great. So it's not a tip that I'm going to pass along. You guys can't escape. Marcia and Jenny are trying to sneak out. Mm-hmm. So, and if Kyla, if you'll grab those feathers, we can see how they look. Bye.
Bye.
So then I can just cut, if I want to do wings, dragonfly wings or bee wings, or this would probably be a good way to do bee wings. Just open up locks and get them really.
Where did you put the other two?
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. They're on the chair right here. Put them in a weird place.
Yeah, they're still drying.
Okay.
They definitely need more time to dry.
Okay. Well, anyway, this is the sheet. And you will play with different colors and textures. These are our feathers. This is still drying. It's damp, but I will go back with the scissors and just trim these up and get them very, very feather-like. When you put the Power Tex on, it kind of pulls some of the loose fibers, but I think those are cool.
Yeah, that edge.
Yeah. Yeah, very cool.
Will you iron them an additional time to just flatten them?
You could like press them.
That's when you want to use some kind of parchment or.
I think once the Power Tex is dry, it's okay.
It can just be ironed.
Okay, we have an addendum to our tutorial. Just another technique. I did not come up with this on my own, but we were talking about it in a meeting, and Debbie suggested this. So what we're going to do is wrap the wire with the HeatnBond without the paper. I'm going to, I wanted to use a sheet. You, of course, could use the strips as well, but with a sheet, I wanted to use it because I wanted to get the whole piece of paper so that I could use it to iron. So I cut this piece, and then you can peel this off. And then we're going to cut this into thin strips, about 1/4 of an inch. And I'm going to pass this to Kyla so she can cut some more while I demonstrate. And then there's sort of a more rough textured side and a smooth side. Put the textured side inward. I always start at the middle of the wire and go to the end, but it's probably safer to start at the end of the wire and go towards the middle. But give yourself an angle and just roll it towards you. And it should stick on there pretty well, especially if it's warm out. In this way, we don't have to groom the feather fiber. We can do that afterwards. So now, basically, I have a wire that when the heat is added is going to become very sticky. And my end wanted to come undone, so I'm just trying to, if it really wants to come unrolled, you can put it in the paper and just like tap it real quick to seal it, but it should stay put. There we go. Okay, then we can take our fiber. So both of these were made using this technique. This one is not power text yet, and this one is. It's nice because it makes a spine, which the twisted technique doesn't do, and using the strip of HeatnBond covers it up a little bit. So this is just another option. Let's do it with white, and I'll do one with black. So I'm going to spread this out as thinly as possible. As thin as I can make it and still have it be fairly even. And then put the wire down and put a thin amount on top. And then we're going to use the other piece of paper just to make sure nothing sticks. And we want to do just about 8 seconds. I think I was doing it a little bit too long and it overactivates. And then that's when it, it's kind of not sticking to anything because it's so hot. So I'm just going to let it cool for a second. What are you laughing at? Mangled strips. All right, let's do a black one. Whoops, I'll do it this way. I feel like a little bit of just, your body temperature is enough to get it a little bit sticky, but see how that goes. Okay. Yeah, and that's it. So then you can take off the extra, you can groom the fiber into the feathery, kind of shape and direction, and then power text and trim. And we get this. Let's do a black one, and then I'm going to show, I just made some little wings. I'll show that technique as well. It's probably a little bit thick, but it's okay. It'll come off. I feel like it's easier. It's a lot easier. 8 seconds. And then while that cools a little bit, I'll just show you. So on the wings, I like to wrap my wire around the body. So I was leaving a little bit of space for that. So I'm just going to wrap the outside 3 inches or so.
How long is that wire?
This is a half of the 18 inches, so 9 inches. And you want these strips on the thin side. It just gets hard to wrap the wire, you know, when this is all thick. It's harder to get the angle. So these are great. This style, I think I would cut in half.
It'd be easier to cut in half with the paper on.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, cut it in half with the paper on, then peel the paper off. Okay. Yeah, it's good. Now, the only thing about this technique, everything has a pro and a con. When we do the strip, we can extend the strip past the wire a little bit and some fiber sticks to it. So it gives you a little bit of a better feather tip. With this, you really have to groom the fiber up to the top and bring it together, which works, but it's just a little bit more difficult to get a nice full feather tip. So yeah, once that's trimmed and power text, that'll be great. Okay, so I found it a little bit easier. This is just a folded over fiber technique. I found it a little bit easier to put the fiber on, tap it with the iron, and then fold it over and re-tap it. So for this, I'm using the plumage. It's a lilac. Is it lilac breasted roller? Is that what this one is? And I'm using the full, the full fiber length. Well, let me put it this way so that I can just fold this over. So I want to put it somewhat centered and have it span the wrapped area, and then just tap it with the iron for 2 seconds. Then I can fold a little bit stuck to that. So I wonder if that's going to be a problem when then I can get this fold nice and tight. I was trying to do it all at once, and I found it hard to get the wire right up in the fiber. How did I do that? I hit the other end. I did that when I was trying this, and I thought, oh, I have to be careful not to do that, and I just did it. So I'm going to put a little bit more HeatnBond on there.
The paper might be
gets tired. Mm-hmm. I'll try it just by folding it over. See what happens. I'm just going to be bold. I'll put a little bit extra fiber and then it won't stick. Right? Okay. Yeah, it's just harder to get it tight up in there. Can you see the wire is down? This one's good. So we had, a little success, a little trouble. But yeah, definitely touch it with the iron for 2 seconds, then fold it over. It gets tighter to the wire. And then once it's power text, this is a half-half mixture. You can cut it, you can leave it natural. This was just the fiber that I had on hand. So of course you could have fun blending different colors and putting them in there. It just keeps them nice and light, and it can't get too heavy because, then it won't, this wire wrapped with the HeatnBond only holds so much fiber. So it just keeps it nice and light. So I thought those were some nice ideas to give us more fodder to try more things.
Could you do this with locks? Spread out locks? Or would it be too?
It just might be too thick on the ends. Yeah. More for the very airy style. If I were doing locks, I would do fiber on the wire and then needle felt the locks into the fiber. So we made a proper mess.
Yep. You have to.
I want to make more. I really want to make more of these. They're really pretty. And so I hope that was clear. Fiber, HeatnBond, 2 seconds. If you're adding wire, fiber, extra protective piece of paper, and then about 12 seconds or so.
Don't touch it when it's too hot.
Don't touch it when it's too hot. Enjoy it. It's fairy wings, leaves, so
many things.
Yeah. Wet felting is a great way to achieve a lot of that, but something small and thin, wet felting is hard to control. So this is a good addition, I think. So enjoy it.